Today I'm here in the heart of Cumbria, the Lake District. I've got a cruise booked on Lake Windermere. It's the largest lake in England. Escape with me as I explore the Lake District. So it's about 8:30 in the morning. We're just waiting for a ferry to turn up so we can get to the other side of Lake Windermere where we've got a cruise booked. Here comes the ferry. So the ferry's £6 and it takes you from one side of the lake to the other. It takes about 8 minutes and it saves you a 45-minute drive around the lake. So we're just boarding the ferry. Here we go. So we've just made our way to the front of Lake Windermere and we've just booked ourselves a blue cruise which takes us around a few islands on Lake Windermere. We're just going to board right now. Hi.
There you go.
Thank you so much. So we've just boarded the blue cruise. Really rather looking forward to this one. So the sun is shining as always. Mr. Sunshine. Mr. Sunshine.
Please listen carefully to the following safety announcement. This vessel has a full complement of life-saving equipment, comprising of life rings, self-inflating life rafts and buoyancy tanks, loosely attached to the top deck, designed to float free in a case of an emergency. Downstairs in the lower saloon we have a full complement of life jackets under the marked seats. All emergency exits are clearly marked. They comprise of the windows down the sides of the boat, the two doors either side of the steer. In the very unlikely event of an emergency, all we ask is you stay seated and calm and follow the instructions given out by the crew. You're travelling on Windermere, England's largest lake. It's 10.5 miles long, by a mile wide at its widest and 220 feet deep. The deepest and the widest part of the lake are in the northern basin, split into two deep water basins by the group of islands that lie just off Bo'ness. 12 of Windermere's 18 islands are to be found in the central part of the lake, and the lake has 4 main rivers that feed it, 3 of which are in the northern basin, the Brothy, the Rothy and the Troutbeck halfway up the northern basin. And there's only one main river that feeds the lake in the southern basin, and that's the river Cumbria, and that's about a mile south of Bo'ness. And then the lake flows down to Lakeside where it becomes the River Leven. It drops 130 feet over 5 miles out into Morecambe Bay and on out into the Irish Sea. Experts tell us it takes between 8 to 9 months for the water to get from the furthest northern point of the lake to the furthest southern point of the lake.
Right, here we go.
So, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen and welcome aboard Miss Westmoreland for this 45-minute island cruise. For your convenience, we have toilets on the back deck, and down in the lower saloon we have a fully licensed refreshment bar. For sale we've got tea, coffee, hot chocolate, a selection of alcoholic beverages, a selection of soft drinks and snacks. Also available behind the bar is the souvenir guidebook, priced at £2.50, telling you in more detail about the 3 main cruises you can do on the lake. The small island ahead of us is known as Hen Home. The middle island is Lady Home, and the one in the distance to the right is Rough Home. A few hundred years ago there was a chapel built on Lady Home for the local lord of the manor, and he installed 2 priests to pray for his family. He gave them 2 fishing boats and 10 fishing nets. He also gave them hens that they kept on the neighbouring island of Hen Home, hence its name. Today Lady Home is home to the Windermere Cormorants. who eat twice their weight in fish and egg and can dive to depths of 45 metres. To help them dive to those depths, they do not have waterproof feathers, but because they eat so much fish, it makes their droppings very acidic. So after they've been fishing, they land in the branches of the trees to dry their wings. They do the inevitable, which strips the bark from the trees, eventually killing the trees. They're quite a pest round the shores of the lake. In some cultures, canny fishermen actually train the cormorants to fish for them and bring the fish back to their boats. So looking over to the right, you've got the further expanse of the northern basin. It's about 4.5 miles from here up to Waterhead Bay, where you'll find the landing stage for the small town of Ambleside. The large mountainous range at the head of the lake is the Fairfield Horseshoe. It rises 2,864 feet above sea level, and it's the seat of one of the glaciers that carved out Windermere over 13,000 years ago. Experts tell us that the ice in this part of the British Isles was up to half a mile thick. The wooded hillside ahead of us is known as Clape Heights, and it stretches over 4 miles down this western shoreline. And it was once owned by the famous children's author Beatrix Potter. She didn't like what was happening on the shoreline behind, wealthy merchants moving up, buying plots of land and building big houses on them. So she made it her lifelong quest to buy as much land on this western side of the lake as she possibly could. She happened to meet and marry a William Heelis, who was a land agent. Every time one of the farmers wanted to sell their land or farm on this side of the lake, they would speak to William. William would speak to his wife Beatrix, and she would pay more than the developers were willing to pay, hence protecting this shoreline for many years, and hopefully many years to come. On her death in the early 1940s, she'd accumulated over 4,000 acres of land and 15 farms that she left to the nation through the National Trust. The two islands to our left here, the small one is known as Horsholme, and the larger one is Windermere's second, the largest island known as Thompsonholme. Not all of Thompsonholme is naturally forming. This end nearest to us is actually man-made to help protect the moored boats from the strong northerly winds. There's one white cottage over on the shoreline there known as Strawberry Gardens. At one time it was a market garden growing and selling strawberries, and it was popular for people to row out from Bowness to buy them. Today it's owned by the National Trust and it's used as a holiday let.
That's the smallest island on the lake. It's not a fallen down tree.
So the next island to come into view on the right is known as Crowholme. I expect when there was a hunt he would get one of the staff to row across, collect the hounds from the island, returning them the same way afterwards. I doubt he ever got his hands wet doing that task. Today Crowholme is the nesting ground for swans and other wild birds from around the lake. The building with the scaffolding on is the annex that the Freshwater Biological Association moved to. They've recently moved down to the YMCA down at Lakeside, and the annex is in the middle of being converted into a luxury hotel. There's side there is the ruin of Clayfer Viewing Station, built in 1790. It's a folly. It became very popular in the 1830s and 40s as a dinner and tea dance venue. In the central part there, where you could see some people stood, was a drawing room. And in the drawing room they'd put coloured glass in the windows to give the visitors an impression of the lake at different times and different seasons of the year. Built in 2013 for a wealthy lady from Wales who made her fortune through the comparison websites. Today Grey Gables is a holiday let and you can rent it out in low season for around £7,500 a week. And it goes up to over £10,000 a week in high season. It has got 5 ensuite bedrooms, so maybe split between a few friends. Maybe not quite so bad. Then from Grey Gables we go to the large cream building appearing between the trees, known as Stores Hall, built in 1790 for a wealthy Yorkshire landowner known as Sir John Legard. By 1804 it was the property of a David Piper Watts, uncle to the famous artist John Cuxtable. She stayed in a cottage in the grounds of Stores in 1806. By 1808 it was the property of a wealthy shipping merchant from Liverpool known as John Bolton. And then in 1890 it became the Stores Hall Hotel. And from Stores Hall we go to the stone building at the end of the stone jetty known as Stores Temple, or the Temple of Heroes, built in 1804 to commemorate naval victories in the Napoleonic Wars. On 4 of its 8 sides are plaques with the names of the admirals of the day. We've got Duncan, Vincent, Nelson and Howe. So, ladies and gentlemen, in a couple of minutes' time we'll be back alongside the pier at Bowness.
Thank you. So I hope you all enjoyed our cruise along Lake Windermere today, and join us in the next escape as we continue our journey through Cumbria and the Lake District.